Today is the 4th of August, so we continue with the Khandha Samyutta, Aggregates, 22.49. On one occasion, the Blessed One was dwelling at Rajagaha in the bamboo grove, the squirrel sanctuary. Then Sona, the householder's son, approached the Blessed One. The Blessed One then said to Sona, the householder's son, Sona, when any ascetics and Brahmins, on the basis of form, which is impermanent, suffering and subject to change, regard themselves thus, I am superior, or I am equal, or I am inferior, what is that due to, apart from not seeing things as they really are? When any ascetics and Brahmins, on the basis of feeling, on the basis of perception, volition, consciousness, which are impermanent, suffering and subject to change, regard themselves thus, I am superior, I am equal, or I am inferior. What is that due to, apart from not seeing things as they really are? So now when any ascetics and Brahmins do not on the basis of form, feeling, perception and volition and consciousness, which are impermanent, suffering and subject to change, regard themselves thus, I am superior, I am equal, or I am inferior. What is that due to, apart from seeing things as they really are? So here the Buddha is saying, if a person does not see things as they really are, that means he still has the self. So because he has the self, and so he considers that there are others. So he has the views, I am superior, or I am equal, or I am inferior when compared to others. But if a person knows the Dhamma and his mind is very clear from obtaining Samadhi, then he will see things clearly and he will have obtained the vision of the Dhamma, and then the Buddha says that he would not have views such as this, I am superior or equal or inferior. What do you think, Sona? Is form permanent or impermanent? Impermanent, Venerable Sir. Is what is impermanent suffering or happiness? Suffering, Venerable Sir. Is what is impermanent, suffering and subject to change, fit to be regarded thus? This is mine, this I am, this is myself. No, Venerable Sir. Similarly, is feeling, perception, volition and consciousness permanent or impermanent? Impermanent, Venerable Sir. Is what is impermanent, suffering or happiness? Suffering, Venerable Sir. Is what is impermanent, suffering and subject to change, fit to be regarded thus? This is mine, this I am, this is myself. No, Venerable Sir. Therefore, Sona, any kind of form whatsoever, whether past, future or present, internal or external, gross or subtle, inferior or superior, far or near, all form or bodies should be seen as it really is with correct wisdom thus. This is not mine, this I am not, this is not myself. Similarly, any kind of feeling whatsoever, any kind of perception, volition, consciousness, whether past, future or present, internal or external, gross or subtle, inferior or superior, far or near, all such aggregates should be seen as it really is with correct wisdom. This is not mine, this I am not, this is not myself. Seeing thus, Sona, the instructed noble disciple experiences revulsion towards body, revulsion towards feeling, perception, volition and consciousness. Experiencing revulsion, he becomes dispassionate. Through dispassion, his mind is liberated. When it is liberated, there comes the knowledge, it's liberated. He understands, destroyed his birth, the holy life has been lived. What had to be done has been done. There is no more for this state of being. These last few paragraphs that I've read now is quite standard now. Buddha will say, here he's talking about the 5 aggregates. So he will ask whether the aggregates are permanent or impermanent. And the disciple will say it's impermanent. And then he'll ask, what is impermanent? Does that give happiness or suffering? And then they say suffering. And then he'll say, what is impermanent, suffering and subject to change? Is it fit to regard it as this is mine, this I am, this is myself? And they say, no, Venerable Sir. And then the Buddha will say, therefore, any kind of aggregate, whether past, future or present, internal or external, gross or subtle, etc. These aggregates, these 5 aggregates should be seen with correct wisdom thus. This is not mine, this I am not, this is not myself. So normally when the Buddha gives such teachings, if the disciple's mind is very clear, then they will experience disenchantment with the aggregates and dispassion, and they let go the clinging in the mind, and they will become liberated. This teaching actually is very helpful to a disciple to become enlightened, provided the disciple is ready for enlightenment. The next sutta is 22.53 at Savatthi. Monks, one who is engaged is unliberated. This word is engaged. Disengaged is upaya. And then the Pali dictionary is page 890. The Pali dictionary gives the upaya, the translation as attachment. So sounds better. Monks, one who has attachment is unliberated. One who has no attachment is liberated. Consciousness monks, while standing, might stand attached to form, based upon form, established upon form. With a sprinkling of delight, it might come to growth, increase and expansion. Or consciousness, while standing, might stand attached to feeling, attached to perception, attached to volition, and based upon volition, established upon volition. With a sprinkling of delight, consciousness might come to growth, increase and expansion. Monks, though someone might say, apart from body, apart from feeling, apart from perception, apart from volition, I will make known the coming and going of consciousness, its passing away and rebirth, its growth, increase and expansion. That is impossible. Stop here for a moment. So here the Buddha is saying that the consciousness is attached to the body, feeling, perception and volition. And then if there is delight in this or that, then consciousness will come to growth, increase and expansion. And then this last part is very important. The Buddha says, if someone says, apart from body, feeling, perception, volition, I will make known the coming and going of consciousness, its passing away and rebirth. That is impossible. In other words, you cannot separate consciousness from the other aggregates. These 5 aggregates must always come together. So if you don't understand this, you might think there is a being which is formless. It has no body. It's just pure consciousness. Like some people think, concept of Kuan Yin, Chai. Kuan Yin has no body, so Kuan Yin has no suffering. There's no such being. Because any being, if you have consciousness, the consciousness must rest in a body. Must rest in a body. You must have this body for consciousness to dwell in. Because of this, so you see, like this, the highest realm, the formless realm, the beings there, their bodies are so fine that they are not seen by other beings, so they are called formless. But some people think that they have no form. They only appear to have no form because all other beings cannot see them, even other devas cannot see them. But according to this sutta, you cannot have consciousness without the other aggregates. So even the formless realm, the beings there, they also have form. But their form is so fine that other beings cannot see them. Monks, if a monk has abandoned lust for the form or body element, with the abandoning of lust, the basis is cut off. There is no support for the establishing of consciousness. If he has abandoned lust for the feeling element, abandoned lust for the perception, abandoned lust for volition, for the consciousness element, with the abandoning of lust, the basis is cut off. There is no support for the establishing of consciousness. And that consciousness is unestablished, not coming to growth. non-generative. It is liberated. By being liberated, it is steady. By being steady, it is content. By being content, he is not agitated. Being unagitated, he personally attains Nibbana. He understands, destroy this birth, the holy life has been lived. What had to be done has been done. There is no more for this state of being. That's the end of the sutta. So here the Buddha says, if a monk has abandoned lust for the 5 aggregates, then there is no support for the establishing of consciousness. And when the consciousness is unestablished, not established anywhere, not coming to growth, it is non-generative, it is liberated. Being liberated, it is steady, then it is content, and then it is not agitated. And this unagitated state is a cool state. Nibbana is a cool state. So when a being is unagitated, the mind is cool, then he attains Nibbana. So if a person's mind is agitated, he can never attain Nibbana, even if he wants to attain. For example, there are some ascetics, they strive so hard to attain Nibbana. The desire to become liberated is too strong, so the mind is agitated. That's why when we strive, the desire to become liberated must not be too strong. If you are looking forward to result, you are expecting results, then your mind is dwelling in the future. Your mind is not dwelling in the present. So the Buddha says, you must leave behind the past and you must forget about expecting anything in the future. Then only your mind is cool. So a lot of people make the mistake because in the worldly life, we always want results, right? Success is shown by results. But in the spiritual life, it's the other way. In the spiritual life, we let go till there's no more to let go. Even yourself also you let go. So if there's no self, what is there to gain? So you must always remember, don't be greedy for results. If you're practicing, you do your work. If you're not making progress, that means your time is not ready yet. Don't become agitated. Oh, I practice so hard, I'm not getting results. So because your mind is agitated. If your mind is agitated, then of course you don't get result. So here you see, interesting thing is when there is no lust for the 5 aggregates, and the basis of consciousness, the no support for the establishment of consciousness, it does not grow, it is liberated, it is content, and it is unagitated. There are states of consciousness which are very high, like in the suttas they say about signless concentration. There's no sign, like no object. So then there's a state called the cessation of perception and feeling, where the 6 consciousness stops. And although the 6 consciousness stops, when a monk dwells in that state, he's still alive. Although the breath has stopped, the consciousness has stopped, the heart has stopped. So if a person does not know, you go and examine him, you think he's dead. The only difference between him and a dead person is that a person who enters this nirodha state, cessation, the body is still warm, he still has body heat, meaning he still has life. So if he still has life, there's probably some other kind of consciousness in the body. That's why here it says, even though that consciousness is unestablished, it is liberated, it is steady, it is content and all that. If there's no consciousness, how can the consciousness be steady and content and unagitated? The next sutta is 22.54 at Savatthi, monks. There are these 5 kinds of seeds. What 5? Root seeds, stem seeds, joint seeds, cutting seeds, and germ seeds as the 5th. And if these 5 kinds of seeds are unbroken, unspoiled, undamaged by wind and sun, fertile, securely planted, but there is no earth or water. Would these 5 kinds of seeds come to growth, increase and expansion? No, Venerable Sir. According to the commentaries, they have some interpretation about these 5 seeds, but it seems to be wrong. At the bottom of the sutta, the Buddha explains what these 5 seeds mean. If these 5 kinds of seeds are broken, spoiled, damaged by wind and sun, unfertile, not securely planted, but there is earth and water, would these 5 kinds of seeds come to growth, increase and expansion? No, Venerable Sir. If these 5 kinds of seeds are unbroken, unspoiled, undamaged by wind and sun, fertile, securely planted, and there is earth and water, would these 5 kinds of seeds come to growth, increase and expansion? Yes, Venerable Sir. Monks, the 4 stations of consciousness should be seen as like the earth element. Delight and lust should be seen as like the water element. Consciousness together with its nutriment should be seen as like the 5 kinds of seeds. Stop here for a moment. So here the 5 kinds of seeds represents consciousness together with its nutriment. These 4 stations of consciousness, sometimes the Pali word is vijnana titi. Sometimes it's called the abodes of consciousness. So in the Pali dictionary, they always talk about 7 abodes of consciousness. The first one, where beings are different in body, different in perception, like the human plane and devas, some devas, and some beings in the woeful planes. And the second one, different in body but equal in perception, meaning the Brahma realms. And then the third is the Abhasara Devas, those in the second jhana realm. The fourth is the Subhakinha Devas, I think they are in the third jhana realm. And then the fifth is the first Arupa Devas, and then the sixth is the second Arupa Jhana Devas, and the seventh is the third Arupa Jhana Devas. The 4 stations of consciousness, or the 4 abodes of consciousness, should be seen like the earth element, just like the seed resting on the earth. So consciousness resides in these different beings. Delight and lust should be seen like the water element, because water, if you have water, that's the catalyst for consciousness to grow. So delight and lust is the catalyst. If we delight in this and that in the world, then consciousness continues to grow. Consciousness, together with its nutriment, should be seen like the 5 kinds of seeds. Consciousness, it has different types of nutriment. I think earlier we read. So all of these are considered as the 5 kinds of seeds that will sprout. Consciousness monks, while standing, might stand attached to form of body, based upon body, established upon body, with the sprinkling of delight, it might come to growth, increase and expansion. Our consciousness while standing might stand attached to feeling, perception, volition, volition. And based upon these other aggregates, with the sprinkling of delight, it might come to growth, increase and expansion. Monks, though someone might say, apart from body, apart from feeling, apart from perception, apart from volition, I will make known the coming and going of consciousness, its passing away and rebirth, its growth, increase and expansion. That is impossible. So here the Buddha stressed this point again, that the 5 aggregates, they come together. Monks, if a monk has abandoned lust for the body element, with the abandoning of lust, the basis is cut off. There is no support for the establishing of consciousness. If he has abandoned lust for the feeling, perception, volition, consciousness element, with the abandoning of lust, the basis is cut off. There is no support for the establishing of consciousness. And that consciousness is unestablished, not coming to growth, non-generative, it is liberated. By being liberated, it is steady. By being steady, it is content. By being content, he is not agitated. being unagitated, he personally attains Nibbana. He understands, destroyed his birth, the holy life has been lived. What had to be done has been done. There is no more for this state of being. So here the point of this sutta is that if we let go the desire for the 5 aggregates, which is basically body and mind, then there's no support for consciousness, because consciousness resides in the body and in the mind. So when there's no lust for this body and mind, then consciousness will not continue to grow. The other point I want to say here, just now I said that the 5 aggregates come together. That is on condition that there is consciousness. Once you have consciousness, the other aggregates must be there. Body, feeling, perception and volition. But there is another state which is, there's a type of beings called the asanya satta. In the 4th jhana realm, there's a type of beings which have body but no consciousness. They have body but no consciousness. Without consciousness, so there's no feeling, there's no perception, there's no volition. It's just like a block of wood. They just exist for a long time in the 4th jhana realm. And the moment consciousness starts, they will die from there. This state, I've never seen any book talk about this state. But I like to make a guess about this state. Because in the Vinaya books, the Buddha described how he was practicing very hard to attain liberation, and how he tried all various ways to end suffering, in other words, end his existence. And one of the ways he tried was to use his mind to force the mind to stop. Because his mind was very strong, because he had attained even the arupa jhanas, so his concentration, his mind was extremely disciplined. So he used the strength of his mind to press down on his mind and make the mind stop working, because he thought the source of suffering is the mind. As long as the mind is running, as long as we are conscious, as long as we are aware, then we are aware that we are suffering. If there is no awareness, then there is no suffering. So he used his mind and exerted his mind to stop the mind from functioning. But although he tried quite hard, he did not succeed, luckily for us. So after that, he gave up that method. But since he had tried that method, I would assume that there are other ascetics who have also tried it. So if they had succeeded, the mind would have stopped working, become unconscious. Very unconscious for a certain while, for a certain period, and after that, consciousness will come back. So because they have trained their mind to do that now, when they die, I think they are born in that realm. But that shows, since that realm is in the 4th jhana plane, that shows you can only do that if your mind is at least you have attained the 4 jhanas. Because when you have attained the 4 jhanas, the mind is very, very strong. So that was just a passing remark. Our next sutta is 22.55, Asavati. There the Blessed One uttered this inspired utterance. Here it says, it might not be and it might not be for me, it will not be and it will not be for me. Resolving thus, a monk can cut off the lower fetters. When a monk cuts off the 5 lower fetters, he becomes an anagamin, a 3rd fruition, Arya, which is also translated as a non-returner, meaning he does not come back to the human rebirth anymore. But this translation doesn't seem to be very good. The previous one in the Pali Text Society, it sounds better. In the previous translation was, were I not then, it would not now be mine. It shall not be, and mine it shall not be. I try to explain this a bit from my understanding, my interpretation. Were I not then probably means were I not then. That means if in a previous life I did not exist, that means I did not have the perception of I am, I exist. If myself was not there, it would not now be mine. This body and mind would not now be mine. this present body and mind would not now be mine. It shall not be. This it shall not be. This it is the I am, the ego, the self. Shall not be. That means it's determined to cut off the self. And mind, it shall not be. When that happens, even if there is a body and mind, then he does not consider it to be mind anymore. It is just body and mind. So I think that is the explanation. When this was said, a certain monk said to the Blessed One, "But how, Venerable Sir, can a monk resolving thus, were I not then, it would not now be mine, it shall not be, and mine it shall not be." Resolving thus, how can he cut off the lower factors? And then the Buddha said, "Here monk, the unlearned ordinary person who does not see noble ones, regards body as self, or body as belonging to self, or body as in the self, or self as in the body." Similarly, for the other aggregates, perception, feeling, perception, volition, and consciousness. He does not understand as it really is, impermanent body as impermanent, impermanent feeling as impermanent, impermanent perception, impermanent volition, impermanent consciousness as impermanent. He does not understand as it really is, painful body as painful, painful feeling as painful feeling, painful perception, painful volition, painful consciousness. He does not understand as it really is, selfless body as selfless, anatta, selfless. Selfless feeling as selfless, selfless perception, selfless volition, selfless consciousness. I stop here for a moment. This selfless, what's the meaning of anatta? Anatta, sometimes they translate as no soul. That's not correct. Anatta means there is no core, something inside that is unchanging. If there's something inside us that does not change, then we can identify that to say that is me. Because it doesn't change. But if everything in the world is changing, changing meaning arises and passes away, arises and passes away. Everything in this world has a birth, has a continuation and ceasing. So if you identify anything in the world as I or mine, in a short while it will cease to exist. So where did that I go? Where did that mind go? Right? So that's the meaning of anatta. There is no thing that does not that is permanent, that does not change. There's no such thing in the world. Everything in the world is arising and passing away according to conditions. So because everything is arising and passing away, there's nothing you can identify as yourself, because whatever you identify is going to cease to exist. So it's the same with the aggregates. All the 5 aggregates are selfless because they are impermanent and always changing and will cease. He does not understand as it really is, conditioned body as condition, conditioned feeling as condition, conditioned perception, volition, consciousness. He does not understand as it really is. Body will be exterminated, will die, will pass away. Feeling will be exterminated. Perception, volition, consciousness will be exterminated. Stop here for a moment. This one, conditioned body, because in the world everything is arising and passing away according to conditions. So everything in the world is conditioned by certain conditions. It comes into existence because of certain conditions. That's why it's called condition. And since everything arises and will pass away, so here it says the body and the other aggregates will be exterminated, will cease. The learned noble disciple monk who sees noble ones, etc., does not regard body as self, does not regard body, feeling, perception, consciousness as self or as belonging to the self, etc. He understands as it really is, impermanent body as impermanent, impermanent feeling, perception, volition, consciousness as impermanent. He understands as it really is, painful body as painful, painful feeling, perception, volition, consciousness as painful. He understands as it really is, selfless body as selfless. Selfless feeling, perception, volition, consciousness as selfless. He understands as it really is, conditioned body as conditioned. He understands as it really is, conditioned feeling, perception, volition, consciousness as conditioned. He understands as it really is, body will be exterminated. Feeling, perception, volition, consciousness, all will be exterminated. With the extermination of body, feeling, perception, volition and consciousness, that monk resolving thus, were I not then, it would not now be mine, it shall not be, and mine it shall not be. Resolving thus, Venerable Sir, a monk can cut off the 5 lower fetters, but how should one know, how should one see for the immediate destruction of the asavas to occur? I'll stop here for a moment. So just now the Buddha was saying, for a monk to destroy the 5 lower fetters and become an anagamin, he has to understand that the 5 aggregates are impermanent, that they are painful, that is a source of suffering, that there is no self in them, nothing permanent. He understands that they are all conditioned. He understands that they will all cease. And so, understanding that the 5 aggregates are impermanent and a source of suffering, then he resolves this saying, were I not then, it would not now be mine. It shall not be, and mine it shall not be. The last sentence, that this I shall not be, he will exterminate the I, the self, so that this body and mind will also not be anymore. So finally the monk asked him how to attain immediate destruction of the asavas, that means immediately to become liberated. Buddha said, "Dear monk, the unlearned ordinary person, ordinary worldling, becomes frightened over an unfrightening matter, for this is frightening to the unlearned worldling. Were I not then, it would not now be mine. It shall not be, and mine it shall not be. But the instructed noble disciple, or the learned noble disciple, does not become frightened over an unfrightening matter, for this is not frightening to the noble disciple. Were I not then, it would not now be mine. It shall not be, and mine it shall not be." Stop here for a moment. So here, the Buddha is saying, for the ordinary person, saying that the self will be no more is frightening to him. But for the learned noble disciple, it is not frightening to give up the self. And the Buddha continued, consciousness monks, while standing, might stand attached to form, attached to feeling, perception, volition and consciousness. Based upon these aggregates, consciousness may, with the sprinkling of delight, come to growth, increase and expansion. Monk, though someone might say, apart from body, apart from feeling, perception, volition, I will make known the coming and going of consciousness, its passing away and rebirth, its growth, increase and expansion. That is impossible. Monk, if a monk has abandoned lust for the body element, with the abandoning of lust the basis is cut off. There is no support for the establishing of consciousness. If he has abandoned lust for the feeling, perception, volition, consciousness element, with the abandoning of lust the basis is cut off. There is no support for the establishing of consciousness. When that consciousness is unestablished, not coming to growth, non-generative, it is liberated. By being liberated, it is steady. By being steady, it is content. By being content, he is not agitated. Being unagitated, he personally attains Nibbana. He understands, destroyed his birth, the holy life has been lived. What had to be done has been done. There is no more for the state of being. It is, monk, for one who knows thus, for one who sees thus, that the immediate destruction of the asavas occurs. So here the Buddha is saying that a monk abandons desire for the 5 aggregates, and then consciousness does not become established, and then finally he attains liberation. Now we come to 22.57 at Savatthi. Monks, A monk who is skilled in 7 cases and a triple investigator is called in this Dhamma Vinaya a consummate one who has fully lived the holy life, the highest kind of person. And how monks is a monk skilled in 7 cases? Here monks, a monk understands body, its origin, its cessation, and the way leading to its cessation. He understands the gratification, the danger, and the escape in the case of body. He understands feeling, perception, volition, consciousness, their origin, cessation, and the way leading to cessation. He understands the gratification, danger, and escape in the case of the aggregates. Stop here for a moment. So here, when the Buddha talks about 7 cases, it means first the element, the aggregate. That means either body or feeling or perception, volition or consciousness. So the aggregate, then how it originates, how it ceases, and the way leading to its cessation. So there are four cases already. And then the gratification, danger, and escape. Another 3 cases. So the 4 plus 3 becomes 7. And what monks is body? The 4 great elements and the 4 great elements and the form derived from the 4 great elements, that is called form or body. With the arising of nutriment, there is the arising of body. With the cessation of nutriment, there is the cessation of body. This noble eightfold path is the way leading to the cessation of body. That is, right view, right thoughts, etc., up down to right concentration. Stop here for a moment. So here, when you say body, you refer to the 4 great elements and the form derived from the 4 great elements. And then body arises from nutriment. When there is a nutriment for the body, the body will arise. And then when there is no nutriment, then the body will cease. But that is temporary ceasing. Permanent ceasing is the Noble Eightfold Path leading to the permanent ceasing of body. The pleasure and joy that arise in dependence on body, that is the gratification in body. That body is impermanent, suffering and subject to change. This is the danger in body. The removal and abandonment of desire and lust for body, this is the escape from body. Let's stop here for a moment. Here, as we discussed 1 or 2 nights ago, gratification in body is the joy, the pleasure you get from seeing the body. For example, seeing a 16-year-old girl at the height of her beauty. And then the danger in body is that it is impermanent and it is suffering. How? As I quoted in the suttas, the Buddha said, imagine the beautiful 16-year-old girl. After some time, when she becomes sick, then she lies on the bed, cannot move, cannot get up from the bed, and passing urine and shit on the bed, and she cannot help herself. Got to be lifted up by some, got to be fed by others, got to be bathed by others, and then looking so weak and all that. And then all the loveliness has disappeared. Or the Buddha says, now imagine when she's 80 or 90 or 100 years old, all the hair has turned white or bald, and the teeth has gone, and the skin is all wrinkled and blotchy, and she might be hunchback and walking with a stick, shivering, so weak. So that also, you see the danger, the Buddha says. And then finally she will die and turn into a corpse, and the corpse will be smelly and bloated and blue-black and oozing liquid from the 9 openings. So there is a danger in the body. And then the escape is to remove desire and lust for the body. That is the escape from having a body again. Buddha continued. Whatever ascetics and Brahmins, having thus directly known body, its origin, its cessation, and the way leading to its cessation, having thus directly known the gratification, danger, the escape in the case of body, are practicing for the purpose of revulsion towards body, for its fading away and cessation. They are practicing well. Those who are practicing well have gained a foothold in this Dhamma Vinaya. Stop here for a moment. So, if we understand the Dhamma, So even though we have not let go of attachment to the body and the mind, but we slowly try to see more clearly how the body and the mind is a source of suffering. So we are practicing towards letting go. So if we are practicing towards letting go of the body and mind and the world, then we are practicing well, we have understood the Dhamma Vinaya. And whatever ascetics and Brahmins, having thus directly known body, its origin, its cessation, and the way leading to its cessation, having thus directly known the gratification, danger, and escape in the case of body, through revulsion towards body, through its fading away and cessation, are liberated by non-clinging. They are well liberated. Those who are well liberated are consummate ones. As to those consummate ones, there is no round for describing them. So, if a person has totally let go of this body, then he becomes liberated. Then he does not go on the round of rebirths anymore. And what monks is feeling? There are these 6 classes of feeling. Feeling born of eye contact, feeling born of ear contact, feeling born of nose contact, feeling born of tongue contact, feeling born of body contact, feeling born of mind contact. This is called feeling. With the arising of contact, there is the arising of feeling. The cessation of contact, there is the cessation of feeling. This Noble Eightfold Path is the way leading to the cessation of feeling. Stop here for a moment. So feeling arises because of contact at the 6 sense doors. Our eye, ear, nose, tongue, body and mind are the 6 sense organs. And when the object of these 6 sense bases come close by, and then we sense them, there is contact. So with the contact, feeling arises. The pleasure and joy that arise in dependence on feeling, this is the gratification in feeling. That feeling is impermanent, suffering, and subject to change. This is the danger in feeling. The removal and abandonment of desire and lust for feeling. This is the escape from feeling. Whatever ascetics and Brahmins, having thus directly known feeling, its origin, cessation, and the way leading to its cessation, having thus directly known the gratification, danger, and escape in the case of feeling, are practicing for the purpose of revulsion towards feeling, for its fading away and cessation. They are practicing well. Those who are practicing well have gained a foothold in this Dhamma Vinaya. So similarly, the Buddha says, if a person understands these things, the aggregate, its origin, its cessation, and the way leading to its cessation, understands the gratification, danger and escape, then we are practicing for the purpose of revulsion, letting go. Whatever ascetics and Brahmins, having thus directly known feeling, etc., those are consummate ones. So those who have totally let go feeling, then they become liberated. And what monks is perception? There are these 6 classes of perception. Perception of forms, perception of sounds, perception of smells, perception of taste, perception of touch, perception of thoughts. This is called perception. With the arising of contact, there is the arising of perception. With the cessation of contact, there is the cessation of perception. This Noble Eightfold Path is the way leading to the cessation of perception. Let's stop here for a moment. So just now we said with contact, feeling arises. After feeling, you have perception. That means you perceive, like for example, you see something, you perceive that it's yellow or blue or white, whatever. The pleasure and joy that arise in dependence on perception, that is the gratification in perception. That perception is impermanent, suffering, and subject to change. This is the danger in perception. The removal and abandonment of desire and lust for perception, that is the escape from perception. Similarly, whatever ascetic and Brahmins understand this and they let go, they are consummate ones. And what monks are volitions? There are 6 classes of volition. Volition regarding forms, sounds, smells, taste, touch, and thoughts. This is called volition. With the arising of contact, there is a arising of volition. With the ceasing of contact, there is a ceasing of volition. The Noble Eightfold Path is the way leading to the cessation of volition. The pleasure and joy that arise in dependence on volition, this is the gratification in volition. That volition is impermanent, suffering and subject to change, is the danger in volition. The removal and abandonment of desire and lust for volition, that is the escape from volition. And what is consciousness? There are these 6 classes of consciousness: eye consciousness, ear consciousness, nose consciousness, tongue consciousness, body consciousness, mind consciousness. This is called consciousness. The arising of mentality and materiality, nama-rupa, there is the arising of consciousness. With the cessation of nama-rupa, there is the cessation of consciousness. This Noble Eightfold Path is the way leading to the cessation of consciousness. Stop here for a moment. Consciousness is said to arise because of nama-rupa, because as I mentioned before, consciousness and nama-rupa, consciousness, the Pali is vijnana, nama-rupa, the translation is mentality, materiality, and you can consider that to be phenomena. What consciousness is conscious of. When consciousness arises, it must be conscious of something. That something is nama-rupa. So in English we call that phenomena. And these two, consciousness and mentality, materiality, they always rise together and cease together. They cannot exist one by itself. They must always exist together and cease together. They are a pair, Siamese twins joined to each other. The pleasure and joy that arise in dependence on consciousness, that is the gratification in consciousness. That consciousness is impermanent, suffering and subject to change. This is the danger in consciousness. The removal and abandonment of desire and lust for consciousness, that is the escape. Whatever ascetics and Brahmins, having thus directly known consciousness, its origin, cessation, way leading to its cessation, having thus directly known the gratification, danger and escape, the case of consciousness, are practicing for the purpose of revulsion towards consciousness, for its fading away and cessation. They are practicing well. Those who are practicing well have gained a foothold in this Dhamma Vinaya. Whatever ascetics and Brahmins, having thus directly known consciousness, its origin, cessation, and the way leading to its cessation, having thus directly known gratification, danger and escape in the case of consciousness, through revulsion towards consciousness, through its fading away and cessation, are liberated by non-clinging. They are well liberated. Those who are well liberated are consummate ones. As to those consummate ones, there is no round for describing them. This in such a way that a monk is skilled in 7 cases. And how monks is a monk a triple investigator? Here monks, a monk investigates by way of the elements, by way of the sense bases, and by way of dependent origination. It is in such a way that a monk is a triple investigator. Monks, a monk who is skilled in these 7 cases and a triple investigator is called, in this Dhamma Vinaya, a consummate one who has fully lived the holy life, the highest kind of person. So here finally the Buddha says we should investigate by 3 ways. One is by way of the elements. The elements are the dhatus. We went through the Samyutta called the Dhatu Samyutta, I think it was chapter 14. And then the sense basis, we haven't come, that is chapter 35, Salayatana Samyutta. And then the third one is dependent origination. That one we went through already, chapter 12, Nidana Samyutta. Although it does not mention, since he has already gone through just now, another way of investigating is the 5 aggregates. In fact, the 5 aggregates are the most important. And if we investigate the 5 aggregates, then we can become an Arya. So that's the end of this sutta. So here the Buddha is saying the 5 aggregates, we have to understand the aggregate itself, how it arises, how it ceases, and the way leading to its cessation. And also you have to understand the gratification, the satisfaction that comes from that aggregate, the danger in that aggregate, the escape from that aggregate. So these are the 7 cases. The next sutta is 22.58 as Savatthi. The Buddha said, monks, the Tathagata Arahan Samasambuddha liberated by non-clinging through revulsion towards body, through its fading away and cessation, is called a perfectly enlightened one. A monk liberated by wisdom, liberated by non-clinging through revulsion towards body, through its fading away and cessation, is called one liberated by wisdom. The Tathagata Arahan, perfectly enlightened one, a Sammasambuddha, liberated by non-clinging through revulsion towards feeling, perception, volition, consciousness, through the fading away and cessation, is called a Sammasambuddha. A monk liberated by wisdom, liberated by non-clinging through revulsion towards feeling, perception, volition, consciousness, through the fading away and cessation, is called one liberated by wisdom. Therein, monks, what is the distinction? What is the disparity? What is the difference between the Tathagata, Arahan, Sammasambuddha and a monk liberated by wisdom? Stop here for a moment. This is also one important sutta. So the Buddha is saying that a Buddha is liberated because of revulsion of the 5 aggregates, and he does not cling to the 5 aggregates. And the disciple, the Arahant disciple, it becomes liberated in the same way by understanding the aggregates and then becoming disenchanted with the aggregates, seeing revulsion and then stop clinging to them, and then he also becomes liberated. So here the Buddha is saying, what's the difference between a Buddha and his disciple liberated? You see, during the Buddha's time, the Buddha is called the Arahant, Tathagata, Sammasambuddha. The monk disciples are not called Arahants, The monk disciples are called monk liberated by wisdom, or a monk liberated by mind, or a monk liberated both ways. Both ways means liberated by wisdom as well as liberated by mind. The Buddha only is called the Arahant, and then later people don't understand, and they differentiate between the Buddha and the Arahant and say the Arahant has not finished his work, whereas the Buddha has finished his work. But we find in the suttas, the Buddha says, after you see the rest of the sutta, there's practically no difference between the Buddha and the Arahant disciple. And then the disciple said, Venerable Sir, our teachings are rooted in the Blessed One, guided by the Blessed One. Take recourse in the Blessed One. It would be good if the Blessed One would clear up the meaning of this statement. Having heard it from him, the monks will remember it. So here the Buddha is asking them, what's the difference between the teacher, the Buddha, and his disciple liberated by wisdom? And they could not explain, so they asked the Buddha to kindly explain. Then listen and attend closely, monks, I will speak. Yes, Venerable Sir, the monks replied. The Blessed One said, the Tathagata monks, Arahant, Sammasambuddha, is the originator of the path, unarisen before, the producer of the path, unproduced before, the declarer of the path, undeclared before. He is the knower of the path, the discoverer of the path, the one skilled in the path, and his disciples now dwell following that path and become possessed of it afterwards. This, monks, is the distinction, the disparity, the difference between the Tathagata, Arahant, Sammasambuddha, and a monk liberated by wisdom. That's the end of the sutta. So here the Buddha is saying that the Buddha is the one who first discovered the path. The path here means the Noble Eightfold Path. So the Noble Eightfold Path is a path that is practiced by all Buddhas and all Arahants. Anyone who wants to become liberated must practice this Noble Eightfold Path. This is the one and only way for liberation. Nowadays, people confuse learners by saying there are 84,000 Dhamma doors. The Buddha never mentioned even once that there are 84,000 Dhamma doors. The Buddha always says there's only one path to Nibbana, one path to liberation, only one and no other path, and that is the Noble Eightfold Path. So here the Buddha says that he is the one who has rediscovered the Noble Eightfold Path. He is the first to bring it back to this world. Okay, and he is very familiar with the path. He teaches the path. And he teaches his disciples the same path. and his disciples also follow him, practicing the same path. In other words, the path that the Buddha walks and his Arahant disciple walks is no different at all. It's just that the Buddha is the first Arahant and the others are later Arahants. So the Buddha said that is the only distinction, the difference between Arahant, the Buddha and his disciples are liberated by wisdom. So you see here, in the Buddha's own words, he says actually there's no difference between him and his disciples. Only he is the first Arahant and they are later Arahants. Well, nowadays people don't understand. They make such a big distinction between the Buddha and the Arahant disciples. And they come up with a lot of things that the Buddha never said before. All that rubbish which the Buddha said. It's not found in the original suttas. Those are the words of disciples. Things like paramis, that the Buddha cultivated paramis for such a long time. 4 asankhya kappas and 100 mahakappas. And when you look into the suttas, there's not a single sutta where the Buddha spoke about parami. The Buddha also never heard the word parami. Now we are so smart, we are smarter than the Buddha. We talk about parami. The Buddha doesn't understand what is parami. So this is very misleading when you talk about parami and that you have to cultivate paramis over such a long time. And then when you look closely, where do you find these teachings about the parami? They come from the Jataka Stories. And the Jataka Stories are so childish, and yet so many people believe in them. The deer can speak, the rabbit can talk like a human being. The rabbit can behave smarter than a human being. The story, the Jataka about the rabbit, he saw the hunter hunting the whole day in the forest. He could not kill any animal, so he was boiling the water, very hungry and nothing to eat. And according to the Jataka story, our Bodhisattva in the previous life was this rabbit. He saw this poor hunter, nothing to eat. He jumped into the boiling water, committed suicide for the hunter to eat. Such childish stories, a lot of people believe. And even the stories about the Buddha, Vesantara, Jataka, because he wanted to perfect his parami of giving, he gave away his wife and 2 children to a heartless beggar. He knows the beggar will beat them, will make them suffer and all that. Still he gave them away, which contradicts the Buddha's teachings. The Buddha says a wise man's charity must not harm himself, must not harm others. So in the case of this Vesantara Jataka, he harms his wife, he harms his 2 children, and he harms himself. All for what? So it's very silly, a lot of silly teachings now taught. In fact, talking about cultivating the paramis over 4 asankhya kappas and 100 mahakappas, we find in the suttas that the Buddha only took 3 lifetimes to get out of samsara. Not even one world cycle, 3 lifetimes. The Buddha said in a previous life, in this kappa, in this world, in this present earth, he met the Buddha Kassapa. And when he met the Buddha Kassapa, he was a Brahmin, so he had no interest to see the Buddha Kassapa. His friend, his good friend, the pot maker, Gatikara, asked him to go many times. He refused until the Gatikara pulled him by the hair. Then only he had to go. Then when he went to see the Buddha Kassapa, he refused to pay respect to the Buddha Kassapa. But the Buddha Kassapa, because Gatikara pleaded with the Buddha to teach his friend, the Bodhisattva, some Dhamma, then the Buddha Kassapa taught him some Dhamma. After hearing that Dhamma, he must have attained stream entry because he changed completely and became a monk. After becoming a monk, he must have attained at least the first jhana, because according to the suttas, after that birth, he went up to the Tusita heaven for a long time. But he came back to this same earth, that means within this same world cycle. He was born as Siddhartha Gautama. After being born as Siddhartha Gautama, as a small boy, about 10 years old, he could attain the first jhana under the jambu tree. So that shows he had probably attained the first jhana. And if he had already attained the first jhana under the Buddha Kassapa, I'm quite sure he would have become a Sakadagamin. So he is a Sakadagamin. His time to enter Nibbana is ripe. Sakadagamin is called a once returner. He comes back to the human rebirth only one more time. He must enter Nibbana. From there we can understand why Siddhartha Gautama, with such a rich, wealthy, happy family, he gave up everything and went into the jungle and lived an ascetic life until he became enlightened. That can only happen because he's a Sakadagamin. An ordinary person cannot do that. People will say you've gone out of your mind. Such a happy family you live and you go off and become a beggar. So you see, a lot of things in the suttas, if you study carefully, is completely different from later books like the Jatakas and the Abhidhamma and the commentaries and all that. Okay, I think I'll stop here. Anything to discuss? I find it a bit strange, Some people, they listen to my talks and then they are shocked. They say all the Sunday schools are teaching the children about the Jataka stories and the paramis and all that. Nobody pointed out that all these are not the Buddha's teachings. You see, we read the suttas about Mara Samyutta. Mara is very powerful. So you cannot escape from me, you cannot escape from samsara. When you practice the Noble Eightfold Path, you are practicing Sila, Samadhi and Panya. So when you have Samadhi, you will see things as they clearly, as they truly are. So you will understand the 5 aggregates as they truly are. So when you understand the 5 aggregates as they truly are, then you will let go of the 5 aggregates. Not necessary. But then generally, if you study the Dhamma, then you study all. You will study the elements, you will study the 6 senses, you will study dependent origination, you will study the 5 aggregates, everything. But if you specialize in one, for example, 5 aggregates, you understand it and it's enough. Yes, you can use your own inclination, but one thing you have to bear in mind, that they are quite related. Quite related. Yeah. Even though during the Buddha's time, disciples of the Buddha disrobed, but I'm quite sure the percent is much less than now. Now, because the teacher is not Sammasambuddha who can read your mind, more people disrobe. And during the Buddha's time, those who disrobe, I think they don't have wisdom. Because if you look into the cases, there was one, after he disrobed, he was talking bad about the Buddha. And he said, according to the sutta, it seems one of the reasons why he disrobed was that he kept asking the Buddha to show him psychic power. And the Buddha refused to show him psychic power, so he assumed that the Buddha had no psychic power. And then he said, those external ascetics are so ascetic, they practice all kinds of what we call ku sing, ascetic practices, austerities, whereas the Buddha never practiced. What he didn't realize was the Buddha had gone through all the austerities more than the ascetics, other ascetics. But because the Buddha found that they were quite useless, then the Buddha only adopted those that were beneficial, like eating 1 meal a day, going on alms round, wearing only 1 set of robes. That the Buddha calls the middle path, but to some people it's already very ascetic. So if a person has got Sammasambuddha as your teacher, and you still fail to make the grade, then there must be something wrong with you, not the teacher. Sometimes you find, in the case I just mentioned just now, that guy had no wisdom at all. On the other hand, there are some like Devadatta. It was because of the ego. and the greed for fame, for offerings. So it's mentioned in the sutta, because he showed his psychic power to the prince was so impressed. Every day offered him the 2 meals, like breakfast and dinner, and each meal 500 dishes were offered to him. And if he had any decency in him, if he was really a monk, he would not want to accept 500 dishes every meal. For him to accept 500 dishes every meal shows that the ego is so big. He thinks he deserves it. So such a person, even before he left the Buddha already foresaw. That's why there's one sutta about the Buddha saying the different disciples of the various monks, they are the same type. Like those that follow Venerable Sariputta, all of great wisdom. Those that follow Mahamoggallana, all have great psychic power. Those that follow Mahakassapa, all very ascetic. The Buddha said, all those that follow Devadatta are all very greedy, evil desires. So that's why our motive in wearing the robe is very important. Different people come to wear the robe for different reasons. Because nowadays you find many they come to cari makan because they think go out and work it's very hard life. You have to slog, get scolded by the boss and all that, get a lot of pressure and all that. Here you just go on arms round and come back, do a bit of sweeping and then you can sleep, eat and sleep. Some people think like that. They don't know that all this is they are taking on a credit card. As one of the suttas say, Brother Ui pointed out, you haven't become an Arya, you don't deserve. So, much dust in the eyes. Actually, during the Buddha's time also, because it's mentioned in the sutta that the Buddha taught the Dhamma, and then those people who have suffering in the world, then when the Buddha explains, then they see there's a way out. There's a way out of their suffering. Because unless you go out into the world and experience suffering, you don't know what suffering is. After you experience suffering, then you come and wear the robe. If you wear it for the purpose of ending your suffering, that is good. Then you will strive, you see. But like nowadays, like you mentioned the Buddhist countries, the poor Buddhist countries, nowadays you find because some Buddhist families, they are very poor, they send their children to become monks and nuns. At the age of 8 years old or 10 years old, they send them to wear the robe. And they wear the robe for the rest of their life. And these people, they did not come into monkhood to cultivate, to practice to get out of samsara. They come into monkhood to cari makan, to have a means of livelihood. Such people, they are not going to strive generally. That's why you find a lot of Buddhist countries, over a period of time, then Buddhism deteriorates. Because the people who come into monkhood, their purpose is not to strive. And sometimes people come into monkhood too young. Later, they don't see suffering. They still think they want to enjoy some more. So then they disrobe. But if, say, they come into life, come into the robes after 30, then it's the best. I think, for unless they are very gifted people, there are some, they come and within a short while, they attain Aryahood or Arahanthood. But those are exceptions. Generally, I think if a person has already worked for some time, has enjoyed some of the worldly pleasures, and then he comes and wears the robe, then he is no more, he doesn't have false ideas about the outside world. Whatever that needs to be enjoyed, he has already enjoyed it. And he won't be easily attracted to the outside world. I see some Westerners, they come into monkhood very early. They go hitchhiking and they go to Thailand. They know about Buddhism suddenly at the age of 20-something, very young. early 20s they become a monk. That's very dangerous because maybe they have not tasted enough of the world. And later, at the age of 50, many of them disrobe. So it's best to taste the world first. Because you come to monkhood too late in life, also very difficult. Because you have very fixed habits, And then your ego is also quite fixed already. So it's very difficult to change. Like the suttas say, old monk, if the young monk, but more senior, ask him to do this, he cannot do that and all that, they get annoyed. This fellow can be my grandson, teaching me how to do this, not to do that and all that. This forest tradition, there are good and the bad points about it. The good point is that it encourages a monk to live in the forest monastery, which is quite ideal for practice. But if a monk wants to progress, he must study the suttas. Definitely must study the suttas, otherwise he does not get right view. Recently I've heard about some very respected Thai Ajahn, paying respect to some lay ascetic, which is quite surprising. So it's the danger is if you don't study the suttas, then you don't get right view. But right view is the first factor of the Noble Eightfold Path that you must attain, because the suttas, there's one sutta, Majjhima Nikaya, Sutta 117, where the Buddha says the practice of the Noble Eightfold Path must start with right view. After you attain right view, that will bring you to right thoughts, which will bring you to right speech, which will bring you to right action, which will bring you to right livelihood, it will bring you to right effort, it will bring you to right recollection, it will bring you to right concentration. So it has to be practiced in that order. So if a person does not study the Buddha's words, then he follows his teacher, and his teacher does not have right view, so his disciple also does not have right view. And the danger I see nowadays, some of them are too proud of their tradition. Just because their teacher is famous, they rely on the name of their teacher. They don't understand our real teacher is not such a particular Attain or a particular Sayadaw, but the Buddha himself. The Buddha is our real teacher. We must always go back to the Buddha. And also I see some monks in the forest tradition, sometimes they make a show of being ascetic. But sometimes some of the practice is actually wasting time. They go here, going there, they say on Tudong, but it's more like a sightseeing tour. They go here, they go all over the forest. I know one of our Malaysian monks, he stayed many years with a famous Thai Achan. Then when he came back, I asked him what method of meditation the teacher taught him. He said, no method. So you see, if the teacher doesn't teach you to meditate well, does not teach you the Dhamma, you follow such a teacher, go traveling in the forest and all that, just to show how ascetic you are, there is no point. That is not what the Buddha taught. So, to practice the Dhamma Vinaya, we must understand what is in the Dhamma, what is in the Vinaya. If you don't understand the Buddha's words in the Dhamma and Vinaya, then you are not practicing the Buddha's Dhamma Vinaya. You are practicing the Achan's Dhamma Vinaya or the Sayadaw's Dhamma Vinaya, which is not the Buddha's Dhamma Vinaya. So you must always go back to the Buddha. Have I translated it?